Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Global Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, yesterday the Israeli authorities arrested an American journalist who works for the Grayzone, which, of course, we're very well disposed towards. It's edited by Max Blumenthal. It features, of course, Aaron Mate, and a number of very good people. So he is arrested and really is facing quite serious charges, so aiding and abetting the enemy.
Arrested and beaten,
Yeah, arrested exactly.
and his
Arrested.
phone taken away from him.
Yes, and uh, as while we're recording it, it still seems he's in detention, and he. The gravamen of the charges against him is the report that he filed about Iran's attack on Israel last week. So let's just first of all take a look at this report, um, and which caused the problems.
I'm Jeremy Loffredo for the Grayzone in Israel, where last night Iran fired over 200 ballistic missiles in retaliation for the assassinations of Lebanese and Iranian political and military leadership. Since the missile strikes, Israeli authorities have attempted to downplay the significance of the attacks, censor the locations of missile impacts from media publication, and claim that Iran was targeting Israeli civilians. What I saw today, here in Israel, is clear evidence that Iran was targeting the same Israeli intelligence and military infrastructure that's been used over the past year to carry out brutal assassinations and attacks. Morning after the missile strikes, news reports indicated that one of the principal targets was Nevatim Air Base. Nevatim Air Base, located deep in the Negev Desert, is the largest and most critical Air Force base in Israel. It's home to 3 squadrons of U.S.-supplied Lockheed Martin F-35 stealth fighter jets, which have played a pivotal role in Israel's year-long air assault on the besieged Gaza Strip. And as of 2 weeks ago, these F-35s are also spearheading relentless and devastating strikes in southern Lebanon, so far resulting in the deaths of 2,000 civilians. The base is also home to Wings of Zion, the Israeli equivalent of Air Force One. Video footage taken around 8 p.m. Israel time by Israelis and Palestinian Bedouins who live around the Negev Desert show Nevatim Air Base being hit with at least 10 ballistic missiles. يا أولاد ما ضربت يمرأ يا رب يا الله. I drove 70 miles south to the highly sensitive Air Force installation, aiming to document the underreported and potentially embarrassing destruction. As I approached the military base, F-35 fighter jets were vertically landing at the base, in all likelihood, on their way back from killing, 30 miles away in Gaza or 100 miles away in Lebanon. The road was separated from the base by more than a mile of desert and miles of steel fencing, so seeing any destruction was impossible. In the Negev Desert, there are 46 Palestinian Bedouin villages. 80% of these villages are, quote, unrecognized by Israel and face constant demolition orders on any permanent or semi-permanent structure, resulting in most of their homes and buildings being built with light material like plywood or sheet metal. I went village to village asking about the missile strikes. Most Bedouins were suspicious of me, but 2 young men who told me the explosions scared their wives and children claimed they knew where a missile had fallen. They led me there, but they were unwilling to appear on camera due to concerns for their safety.
Whoa. Oh.
The military took away most of the missile, but there was still a piece left. The missile fell a quarter-mile west of Nevatim Air Base and about a quarter-mile from the Bedouin village, which is unrecognized by Israel, so it isn't supplied with any type of state-of-the-art bomb shelters like Jewish communities. Where were people in the communities around here hiding yesterday during the seance?
الناس كانت تشرد للمدارس وين ما في ملاجئ او لا وين ما في جسر كانوا يلبدوا تحت الجسر. اكيد لا لان ما في ملاجئ وما في اماكن امن للناس. كان يجي تخبط في الوقت. Many people sheltered here last night with sounds of the rockets. They came and hide here.
As night fell, I headed to the heart of Israel's military and intelligence operations, Tel Aviv.
Oh, these are human shields, George.
This city is home to the nucleus of the state's defense apparatus, and by Israel's own logic, the civilians here could be considered human shields. At the center of this high-density urban area lies the headquarters of Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, where covert operations, assassinations, espionage, and blackmail plots are devised against state enemies. It's not just that schools or hospitals are nearby. Mossad's headquarters is strategically nestled among them, with apartment complexes, tourist hubs, and public facilities all around. Rumors had been circulating online with unverified videos suggesting that the Iranian missile barrage targeted this very headquarters. However, finding the exact impact site was difficult. Israel's military censor had barred the media from reporting the locations of the missile strikes. Using visual clues from footage circulating online, I set out to locate where the missile may have landed. Driving down a street I believed to be in one of the missile videos, I saw a heavily damaged SUV. Its windshield shattered, debris and concrete caked into the vehicle. Further down, the scene unfolded. Destroyed vehicles, torn up asphalt, and a massive crater, roughly 30 feet wide, recently filled in with dirt.
That's the Mossad headquarters.
The missile had hit less than 1,000 feet from Mossad headquarters. This information is missing from all Israeli media reports due to the fact it's been officially censored. Right here are the censored coordinates. Given the proximity to what is considered one of the world's most advanced intelligence agencies, it seemed clear that Israel was taking extra precautions to conceal the exact impact location. As we left the area, an unsettling incident occurred. Our cell phones lost GPS functionality. Maps went blank, and then both devices, mine and my taxi driver's, suddenly showed we were at Amman's airport in Jordan, for 120 miles west. For the Grayzone, in Israel, Jeremy Loffredo.
All right, so
It's really rare to see such investigative journalism, and
that's right.
he's all by himself.
Exactly. So what we can gather from this is, first of all, that he's a journalist. He's a very brave journalist, and he's clearly engaged in journalism. He's not doing anything to aid and abet anyone's enemy. He simply wants to publicize information, and information really about targets that were hit in Israel. So he's not giving away any coordinates or anything else, to provide information to anyone who wants to target Israel. He's saying, he's going there after the fact to discover what, if any, damage has occurred as a result of the missile attacks.
And he made it public to everyone. It's
Right.
not like he was sending it to Tehran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we should say, and of course, I'm sure everybody already knows, that the Grayzone is not something that is looked upon very favorably in Israel. It's been extremely critical of Israel, long-term policies, short-term policies. It's a very critical website. So here is the news story from an Israeli source about the arrest of Loffredo. And it says, American journalist disclosed secrets during Iran attack, police says. And Jeremy Loffredo faces Israeli court.
Did you see those secrets, George? I didn't.
I didn't see any secrets, to be honest. I didn't see it at all. And particularly when you think of the this airbase, everybody knows where the airbase is. So it's not like there's a mystery. Oh, we didn't know there was an airbase here. This is a well-known airbase. So Iran has its GPS coordinates. It's not, he wasn't even revealing what the GPS coordinates, but Iran has them. Same with the Mossad headquarters. That's not a secret. Anybody who wants to know will know where the Mossad headquarters are in Tel Aviv. So yeah, exactly. What secrets did he disclose? Jeremy Loffredo faces Israeli court after reporting Iranian missiles striking several Israeli bases. U.S. fears possible diplomatic incident following reporters' actions. But of course,
well, I don't think that's true. But anyway,
that's very exactly, and that of course brings up a very interesting question, which is that is there any possibility that the U.S. is going to go into bat for an American citizen under arrest? I don't think there's been no news of that. There's been no expressions of concern that I've come across emanating from the U.S. government.
No.
Again, one needs to say, remember the Evan Gershkovich story and how much obsession and attention was devoted to that. Amazing how little attention is devoted to other cases when journalists are arrested and, as we'll see, are actually killed. So here we have Jeremy Loffredo, 28, an independent American journalist, was arrested by police on suspicion of endangering national security after reporting on where missiles landed in the attack launched by Iran earlier this month, including the IDF's Nevatim air base and an intelligence base in central Israel. And as even the very opening sentence kind of belies what it's trying to say. What's the secret? Where's the secret here? He's just simply, this is where the missile landed. In his report, Loffredo said that attacks on Gaza were launched from the Nevatim base, and said that government's private jet used by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was located there. That was something that was known. I remember reading that at the time, that the government's private jet. It's not actually private. It's not, I mean, to say it's private, it's his personal plane assigned to him by the government, like Air Force One. It doesn't actually belong to Netanyahu. It's, it's provided by the government. And then the charges against him include aiding the enemy during wartime and providing information to the enemy. And then his arrest has raised concerns of a potential diplomatic incident between Israel and the US because of his status as a foreign journalist. So again, as you say, concerns, I wouldn't be too concerned. And then he says, representatives from the U.S. Embassy attended the Jerusalem Magistrates Court for a hearing on the request of the police to extend his detention. And now we have the lawyer, Leah Tzemel, who says, he published the information openly and fully without attempting to hide anything. If this information constitutes aiding the enemy, many other journalists in Israel, including Israeli reporters, should also be arrested. A spy would not have acted so publicly and transparently. And that is very, very, very interesting because, again, and it raises then the question, why are they selecting him and not other journalists?
Because he works for the Grayzone.
Exactly. So this is a tweet from Dan Cohen. I think you know him. I think he's been on Crosstalk.
Yep.
Yeah. And it says, Jeremy Loffredo was beaten and detained in Israel for reporting the exact same information about damage caused by Iranian strikes that PBS correspondent Nick Schifrin published. But Schifrin wasn't arrested and is silent on Loffredo's detention. And that's going to be very interesting. I mean, we know the Wall Street Journal, which obsessed over what happened to Evan Gershkovich. Wall Street Journal isn't going to say much on this. Wall Street Journal is very much in the Israel camp. And then this is a statement from the Grayzone. So Jeremy Loffredo remains in Israeli jail. Officially, police are holding him on suspicion of serious security offenses for publicly publishing the locations of missile drops near or inside sensitive security facilities, with the aim of bringing this to the notice of the enemy and thereby assisting them in their future attacks. Again, it's very strange because this is already after the attack. He's not saying, hey, this is, why don't you bomb this? So this is already after the attack. He was assessing what, if any, damage took place.
Well, particularly since the Israeli government doesn't want you to know, and that's why journalists are supposed to do what they do, and to say we're going to inform the public. That's what journalism is, okay? You know, it's so easily forgotten these days. I mean, because most journalists are regime journalists. They're all they are is scribes for official narratives. And Jeremy says, no, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm gonna get a taxi. You know, everybody knows where these places are. I'm just gonna go and take a look around.
Right.
That's illegal. Wow, then we're in a really bad place.
But you're absolutely right, because that is what journalism is. You know, you just get a statement from the government, from any government agency, and then you just accept it. You just repeat it, and you don't even question. You know, you might think, you know, from even local government. Don't you think the mayor of the city may be lying? Don't you think the police commissioner may be lying? You know, don't you think the home secretary could be lying? No, you just sort of regard it. Makes journalism very easy. You know, you don't have to do anything. You just sit and just simply regurgitate what people told you.
Well, I mean, in the report that you showed us, George, how in any universe could this be helpful to the Iranians?
I
mean,
know.
I just don't.
No.
I think that, you know, they're technologically adept enough. They have a really good idea of the impact of their attack.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right. And again, they already knew this, and as you say, the Israelis put out the story. You know, no, it didn't do any damage at all, and so I think a lot of people around the world want to know, well, is that true? And that's an important piece of information.
Joe Biden said exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
complete failure.
Exactly, and that was the night of the vice presidential debate, and the moderators immediately said, "Oh, this attack failed." So you accepted it within hours. You already accepted the official story, but it's something that there's a great deal of public interest. I mean, because after all, the stakes are quite high, and we want to know, well, was there or wasn't there damage? So he went and looked into it. The charges stem from Jeremy's report for the Grayzone News, showing the aftermath of Iranian attacks on military and intelligence targets inside Israel. Again, I have to repeat it. We've said it many times before. Military and intelligence targets, not civilian targets. No civilian targets were hit. They went after military and intelligence targets. Very different from Israel. And the same exact locations which were openly featured in reports broadcast on ABC and PBS. Originally, the judge overseeing Jeremy's case ordered him released, saying that since Israeli military censors agreed to allow Israeli media to publish both word of Jeremy's arrest and the publications that led to his arrest, Israel could no longer justify his continued detention. You know, following this, quite a logical point. However, police appealed this decision. For now, Jeremy remains in custody, and his appeal hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. The Grayzone unequivocally rejects these outrageous accusations from Israeli police. We stand by Jeremy's legitimate reporting. The claim that Loffredo and the Grayzone represent Israel's enemies in wartime merely suggests that the Israeli government views the American people and free press as a legitimate target. We represent no one else.
Those guys over at the Grayzone are smart.
That's right. We represent no one else. We will fight these charges and ask that you contact the State Department and urge them to act in defense of their citizen detained in Israel. The US has an obligation to defend its journalists who are merely adhering to their ethical obligation to inform the public of pertinent facts. Now, you know, we kind of, you know, already forgotten the case of Gonzalo Lira, who appeared a couple of times on our podcast. And the US government did nothing for him. Zero. Nothing.
We're aware of the situation. We're aware of it.
We're aware of it, and we did nothing. So again, you have a complete dependent on the U.S. government. I mean, you owe everything to them. They give you the money, they give you the arms. They just they lavish all this. So if you want to lean on them, you can lean on them. I mean, it's not like, you don't have any leverage. If ever you had leverage against anyone, it was against Ukraine. So the Americans could have absolutely got
Blinken
Gonzalo Lira out.
Blinken get on the phone and actually do the following. Release him. He's a journalist. He's an American. And your court said that he should be released.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
So, I mean, you don't even expect that.
That's right.
Something is so, in some ways, so very important, but so very small. Just get on the phone.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. But of course, Americans have lost their leverage over Israel a long time ago, because basically Israel has said, we're just not going to do what you asked us to do. And end of conversation. And the Americans have each time said, okay, well, if it's the end of the conversation, it's the end of the conversation.
They could just say, well, he's not dead, dead yet, because they kill American journalists.
Yes, exactly. And here, this is from the Committee to Protect Journalists. And they just simply record how many journalists have actually been killed in the Israel-Gaza war since October the 7th. Again, this barely gets any mention in Western media. So let's you actually have to go to a specialized site to get this kind of information. And it says, the Israel-Gaza war has taken an unprecedented toll on Gazan journalists since Israel declared war on Hamas. As of October the 11th, 2024, the CPJ's preliminary investigation showed at least 128 journalists and media workers were among the more than 43,000 killed since the war began, making it the deadliest period for journalists since CPJ began gathering data in 1992. And again, that's an awful lot. That's 128. That's a lot of people.
I think it was. I think I heard this yesterday, and said this is more than the United States lost in 20 years in Vietnam.
Right. Yeah. And then we have, to date, CPJ has determined that at least 5 journalists were directly targeted by Israeli forces in killings, which the CPJ classifies as murders. And of course, the United States did that during its Iraq invasion. I mean, it did explicitly target Al Jazeera, and just standard practice. You don't like the message, so you target the messenger. And then so mentions these the ones that the CPJ classified as murders, and the CPJ is still researching the details for confirmation in at least 10 other cases that indicate possible targeting. And then this says, as of October 11th, 128 journalists and media workers were confirmed killed, 123 Palestinian, 2 Israeli, and 3 Lebanese. So only of them, only 2 Israeli. 36 journalists were reported injured. 2 journalists were reported missing. 69 journalists were reported arrested. And then multiple assaults, threats, cyber attacks, censorship, and killings of family members. And again, none of this really makes it into the mainstream media because, well, they're just Palestinian journalists. Well, they're all terrorists, so why bother? Just like when we had UNRWA, they found was that a few of them may have had some involvement in the attacks on October the 7th. We don't know what kind of involvement. Okay, so that's UNRWA. UNRWA, thousands upon thousands of people work for UNRWA. They're all terrorists. They're all Hamas supporters.
If you have a case against, I think it was 3 or 4 individuals, make your case. And if they broke the law, then they should be punished. Okay, I don't. It's a storm in a teacup for me. Okay, but obviously Israel has hated UNRWA from day one.
Right.
Okay, and they've taken every advantage to situation to try to shut them down, which is the single most important aid organization for Palestinian refugees in Palestine.
Right. No, that's right. So I have grave doubts that the United States is going to do anything much for Loffredo, at least not for the foreseeable future. I think he's going to be in detention for.
Well, I mean, we had Cosgrove, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Grayzone, give Miller a real shiner at the State Department. And that is just a clip that should just go down in history. I mean, I encourage everyone to take. Do you know the gentleman's first name? I know Cosgrove.
I think it's Liam.
Liam, there you go. Liam. Good for you, Liam. You're on the right side. You're on the right side, okay? And I mean it because now the State Department, they feel bruised by someone that was so openly honest, brutally honest, and now they've got Loffredo. Okay, so I think that the State Department, as they're wont to do, they're petty people, they're small-minded people, they're not the smartest people, but they have power, unfortunately.
That's right. That's right. But again, we're going to have to see whether other journalists are going to step up to the plate.
Well, that's the point, George. The chilling effect. That's what this is all about. Okay?
That is the chilling effect. Because again, we know that journalists really didn't do anything for Julian Assange until it became safe to do so. In other words, years and years and years went by until finally, the New York Times said, well, this is a real threat to journalism. And then once the New York Times did it, then others said, yeah, the Guardian, yeah, this is a threat to journalism. And then oh, yeah, it's a threat to journalism. Took years and years to get there before but all the time they were happy to recycle all sorts of negative stories about Julian Assange, about the stupid rape story in Sweden, the business that he was smearing feces on the walls of the Ecuador embassy, all these absolute lies that were happy to recycle.
For Russia.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, okay, but that's why they're not going to say much in this case. I haven't read anything very much. I mean, I look through Twitter and I don't see any mainstream publication saying, hey, this isn't right. We can't have journalists getting arrested for doing journalism. Silence. No.
It's basically the profession is just full of cowards. That's all it is right now. Right. They're grifters. They're just grifters. Okay. And most of them can't even write.
That's very, 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 very true. That's
well, everyone, we're going to keep an eye on this here. Gonzalo Lira, as George mentioned, we had contact with him. A rather strange character, but he had his point of view, and that's perfectly fine with George and I.
Being strange,
being strange is not illegal.
It's not illegal. You don't deserve to die for being strange. So that's just not how it works.
But from I've been looking at Loffredo's work. I mean, some of it is just absolutely brilliant. It's so eye-opening. And he's like basically a one-man band.
Right.
And he went to the Rafah crossing where they have the fanatical settlers blocking, not only blocking aid, destroying aid. Okay. And he kind of blended into the crowd, and people started really opening up to him, telling him what they feel. And he recorded all of it, and some of them knew they were being recorded. Right. None of that is in Western media. Right. Not one peep. And he's a one-man band showing up with probably using his iPhone as a camera. It's all there if you want to learn. But no, everybody just closes their eyes and ears, and it's not happening. It's not happening. Okay. It is happening.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's like that kind of reporting. It's for the Israeli regime. Loffredo was that drip. Okay, because what he reported was true. It was all above board.
Right.
And
right.
I think they're finally decided this is the time to get rid of it, make an example of him, the Grayzone, and anyone else that wants to step up and do journalism. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. But I think a Grayzone is a particular sore point.
Yeah.
For
again, you guys, you have Haaretz, you have these major media organizations in Israel, very sophisticated, very well funded. And here's a small group of people. The Grayzone could probably be put into someone's living room.
That's right.
And major media outlets are sparring with them. Okay,
Right.
and then begrudgingly saying they were right, or or earlier report.
I think we have, let's see. No, I think you're right, Peter. And I think what's important is that, I mean, there are obviously very strongly anti-Israeli sites, very pro-Palestinian sites, but they're usually run by, themselves, Palestinians, or who were living abroad, like the Electronic Intifada, a very good site. The problem with the Grayzone is that the key figures there, particularly Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate, are themselves Jewish. And so very hard to start, throwing around, accusations of anti-Semitism and so on. And so that's why it's particularly painful for Israel when their most formidable opponents are themselves Jews. I mean, obviously that applies to the Grayzone, but of course applies also to Norman Finkelstein, applied obviously to Noam Chomsky throughout his career. And those are the people that Israel really, really deeply loathes. You can always dismiss, the Electronic Intifada, Palestinians. Oh yeah, they're just Jew haters and so on. Can't really do that in the case of the Grayzone.
Yep, and people like Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Glenn Greenwald, Katie Halper, they make the message is very clear. Israel doesn't speak for all Jews. No. Okay, and that's the Israeli government hates that, because the entire Zionist project is predicated on the state of Israel speaking for all Jews everywhere. Okay. Right. All right, everybody, we're going to keep an eye on this here. I hope the next time George and I convene, Jeremy will be out, hopefully in good shape. Okay, but I would fully expect he will be expelled from the country.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure they won't expel him.
That's the best case scenario.
That's the best case, exactly. I mean, I think it's possible that they'll release him from detention, but he'd have to stay in the country for the criminal charges. These are serious charges. You can't just simply throw them out right away. I mean, it's like aiding and abetting an enemy. I mean, that's a serious business. I mean, you face life in prison for that.
Well, I mean, but the State Department could make the call.
They could make the call, but
could make the call.
They could make the call. I don't think they will, but they absolutely could make. But the problem is that once you make such serious charges, it's very difficult just to drop them. So I mean, if there were lesser charges, then okay, yeah, we can drop that. But this is serious stuff. So that's why I think, if they release him from detention, I think they're going to take away his passport and tell him that you have to stay in the country and face criminal proceedings.
Well, I don't know how the Israeli judicial system works, but one would hope that a court above the court that is charging him will throw it out. Okay. All right. This is going to turn into a very painful for Jeremy himself personally saga, but it's going to be another story that George and I and a few other people will never let go. We won't let it go. Okay, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. I'm not going to, if excuse me, the worst case scenario is in play, then George and I are here for the long haul.
Yep, that's right.
All right, everybody. This is The Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is a part of our Friday wrap on this October 11th. We'll reconvene on Sunday, and I still think we have our live stream scheduled for Monday.
Live stream scheduled for Monday, and then we've got the my solo on Tuesday, and so and now is the moment of truth, which is the tip jar situation, and this is where Apple comes in and say, I'm not happy.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I'm not getting a good vibe here. Something needs to be done. So, and when Chihuahuas say something needs to be done, that's usually a bad sign. So if you have a few bucks in your pocket, bucks, even a few cents, please.
Got a few shekels. We're not picking
shekels, whatever, drachmas, dunk them into the tip jar. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we'll get dogs that are in a reasonably equable mood, which we haven't achieved in a while. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.